city life, me try forget my pressure now ease up no matter how hard me try. Big city life.
So this is probably the worst intro that the Iron Workshop ever had, but I don't have my pop filter for my microphone, and throughout this whole tutorial I've actually confused Cape Town with Johannesburg. So get ready for that. And I feel like crying, and now you feel like crying. So now that we're both in the same starting position, we can get this lesson going. Let's get started. Hi everyone, and welcome to another HOI4 quick modding tutorial on the Iron Workshop. In this tutorial, we'll be learning how to create new cities so that we can all have our big city life. So shockingly, the first step that we have to do is to create our new mod, which will contain our new cities. So I'm going to open the game launcher. I'm going to go to mods, mod tools, create mod, and we'll just call this one Big City Life. Alright, obviously you can call it whatever you want, it doesn't really matter. Big City Life will also be our folder name, although I would prefer to have an underscore, but that's just me. And we'll just set it to gameplay, create mod, excellent. Our mod has been created, and now we can move on to the next steps. Now the next step is going to be a little bit different, because the first thing that I want to do is to identify where I want to add my city, right? So in order to do that properly, I will need to start the game in debug mode. So I'm going to enable my mod just to have it enabled. It doesn't really matter. I don't really need it to have it enabled, but I'd prefer to do it at this point already. We'll click done and play. Now I'm starting my game in debug mode, and it's very important that you start your game in debug mode as well, since we will need to be identifying some provinces in the game. If you don't know how to start your game in debug mode, please look at the appropriate lesson that I have uploaded to the Iron Workshop, and once you have that set up, just continue from this point. Alright, so now that we are in the game in debug mode, I'm going to open the nudge tool. I'm going to click on states in the upper right corner. Now I'm going to add my city here in South Africa, which will be Johannesburg, right? And I'm going to do it in this province. Now the province is selected, and the game tells me that the ID of this province is 12589. So I'm going to write that down. And you can write it down on your notepad, in your computer, whatever you want. It's just important that you have the province ID set. Now, obviously, if you want to add your cities to other provinces as well, then you will just need to repeat the process. But if you want to do this for a couple, then just write them down, all of them right now. All right, so we have our province ID. We can now actually leave the game and start creating our folder and file structure. The folder and file structure for this mod, in order to create cities, is going to be quite simple. So I'm going to go into my mod folder, which is located in Documents, Paradox Interactive, HOI4, mod. And here we already have the folder of the mod that we've created. So I'm going to go in here, and alongside that I'm going to open the vanilla, the original game. And in here, we will need some files from the map folder. So I'm going to recreate this folder in my mod, in my own mod. And from here, we'll be copying a file called definition.csv. It's this one. So I'm going to put it over here in my mod. We're also going to be copying a file called provinces.bmp. Although I'm saying right now that you don't really need it, but if you are doing this for the first time, it's handy to have it all together in your mod. Later on, you will be able to delete this one file. And we will also need the terrain.bmp file as well. And there's another file that we need, which is located inside the terrain folder. So I'm going to recreate the terrain folder. And from here, I'm going to grab a file called color map RGB city massive mask _A. It's a bit of a long name, but you can probably locate it easier if you filter the files in this folder by their size. This is probably going to be the biggest file in this folder. Alright, so now that we have all of the folders and files that we need, we will need to start changing the code and some of these files to create our city. Now the first step is actually going to be quite easy. We're just going to change the definition of our province to be an urban province, right? So to be a city province, and that will have all kinds of in-game effects. If you click on the province, you'll see that it's a city, and of course, if you have combat going in that province, then the appropriate modifiers will be applied when fighting in that province. So I'm going to open the definition.csv file. And in here, I'm just going to locate the province that I've chosen before when we went into the game. Now I know that the number of my province is 12589. I'll open the find dialog. You can open it by clicking Ctrl+F on your keyboard, or you can find it in here from search, find. Okay, so I'm going to type in the ID of the province, and I'm going to click on find next. Okay, so this is the province. This is all the relevant data about this province. We're not going to be changing anything here except for this. Currently, this province is identified as a mountainous province, right? That has mountains. So we're just going to change it to urban. Cool. So urban defines it as an urban province, as a province that has a city in it. And you notice that Notepad++ has already auto-completed urban for you, since it is something that is already being used in this file. Okay, so we can now save this file, and we can actually go into the game and see that the province has already changed into a city province. Now I won't be doing this right now, but you can already do that. Just make sure to enable your mod when you start the game, and you will see that the province that you changed is now an urban province. But just because you change the definition of that province, it doesn't mean that the graphics were also applied to it. And that means that the province will still look like mountains on the map. And on top of that, in case you have the night and day cycles enabled in the game, you'll see that the province doesn't light up like it's a city, like the other ones do. So this is what we're going to be changing next. So the first thing that I want to change is the graphical indication on the map so that I can see that my province is an urban province. Now I gotta be honest with you, I wanted to show you how to do this in paint.net, since this is the tool that I usually use, and I wanted to save you the trouble of switching to different tools and different programs. Unfortunately, paint.net does not have the required options to edit the terrain files. So in order to continue this lesson, we're going to have to use GIMP. Now I do have a link to the download of GIMP in the video description, so just make sure to download it and install it and then continue the lesson. I wish we could have done this with paint.net, because trust me, I don't like switching tools on the fly as well. But this is one aspect of modding which you might have to get used to. Oftentimes you have to work with various tools to achieve sometimes even a minor result. Alright, so once you have GIMP installed, let's open it. And now I'll open my terrain.bmp file in GIMP by right-clicking, open with GIMP. Now we know that we want Johannesburg to be a city province, and I know that it's located somewhere in here. Now I can zoom into this location by holding the Control key on my keyboard and using the mouse wheel, and that brings me much closer to the area that I want to work with. Great. Now the trouble here is that I don't really know in this whole mess where exactly the province starts and ends. So in order to make things easier for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my mod folder. I'm going to open the provinces.bmp file in GIMP as well. And now I'm going to copy this image by holding the Control key and clicking A on my keyboard, and then Control and C to copy it. I'm going to go back here, back to my terrain image, click on Edit, and click on Paste as New Layer. Okay, so what happens now is that the provinces file is overlapping the terrain file, and they can both be found here in layers. If you don't see layers in here, then just make sure that layers is selected here, right? So if I switch between these options here, I will see layers in this button here. Great. So what I can do now is select this province, which I know that this is Johannesburg. And the way that I can select it is by using the magic wand, or here they call it the fuzzy select tool. Fine. So I'm going to click that, and then I'm going to click Johannesburg. And you see now that it's selected. Excellent. The next step is to go back to my terrain map with the selection still working. So I'm going to click on this little eye icon in here, and that's going to keep the selection and show me the terrain image. So what we have to do now is to paint our province with the appropriate color that will tell the game that this is an urban province. Now I can't really know the color for sure just by looking at this map, but I can borrow the color from a place that I already know that has an urban province. So if I zoom out, again holding the Control key and using my mouse wheel, and if I go to London, which is located right about here, now I know that London is an urban province, so I can use this color and just take it to Johannesburg to paint it with the correct color. Now to borrow the color here from London, I'm going to click on the color picker tool and just click on the color in here, and you will see that the color here will change to this yellow. Now it's very important that you select the correct color. Now other places in here may also have the color yellow, and while it may seem to you the same color, it might not be. So it's best to go safe and go for a place where you know that has the precise color, because everything here depends on the colors that you use. Excellent. So now that we have the color, I'm going to zoom out and zoom back to Johannesburg. And now let's paint with this color. So I'm going to select my pencil tool in here. I can change the size here in case you need it to be bigger or smaller. And what it's going to do is it's only going to paint inside the selection that I have. And I want to paint here along the coastline. I don't actually want to fill the whole province with the urban color. So now that we have done that, I can remove my selection by selecting the rectangle select tool and clicking on an empty place. And all I want to do now is to remove this layer of the provinces since I no longer need it. So I'm going to right click, delete layer. And now we need to save the file. So I'm going to go to File, Export As. Here I'm going to select Show All Files, terrain.bmp, Export. I'm going to click on Replace. Now here in this dialog, make sure that your options are the same as they are here, and just click Export. Excellent, so now the file has been saved. We can now go into the game and see if we actually see the urban graphic on the map. Okay, so here we are, and as you can see, now our coastline has these city graphics. Now I probably overdid it a little bit, but you get the point, and I'm sure that your results will look much better, but it works, and this is how we create these graphics. But please note that despite the fact that we have this, whenever we have a sunset, you see that it still doesn't light up with the city lights. And this is what we're going to be taking care of next. Okay, now let's take care of those city lights. A word of warning, it's possible that your first result may not look amazing. That is totally fine. It takes practice to get these things right. And we are, after all, using free tools, and those do have some limitations to them. So if your first result isn't perfect, just try again, and I'm sure that you'll get better as you try more and more. Okay, so to get our city lights working, we'll be using the file inside the terrain folder, color map RGB, city massive mask A. And since we've already used GIMP, I'm going to open this file in GIMP as well. And when you open this file, in this dialog, you can just click on OK. And when you open this file, it might look a bit strange to you. And that is again because both GIMP and Paint.net are free, so they lack certain functions that would make this file much easier to use. But it doesn't matter, we'll still be able to achieve the result that we want. Now we want our city lights to be in the area of Johannesburg. Now I have no idea where Johannesburg is in here, but I'm going to use again my provinces.bmp file to help me. The thing is that the provinces file is much bigger than this one. So if I just attempt to put it on top of here, it's going to look really weird. If you take a look, for example, if I do it right now, right, it's a bit weird because this is not the correct file size. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to resize my provinces.bmp file to fit the size of this file. So to figure out the size of this file, we'll go to Image, Scale Image, and in here you'll get the width and height of this file. So just make sure to write them down, and then go to the Provinces file, go to Image, Scale Image, and then just type these values in here, and click on Scale. Okay, so the file has been reduced in size, and we can now copy it over here just as we did before. So we'll go to Edit, Paste As, New Layer, and I'm going to change the order of the layers in here. I'm going to zoom in to Johannesburg. It is somewhere around here. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to use the brush tool. So to find the brush tool, I'm going to again long click on pencil and select paintbrush. And now I'm going to paint this area in here that I want to light up. We'll probably need a much smaller size, like 3 pixels. And I'm just going to paint it over here. Now we can change the color in here just to make sure that it looks better. And I'm going to need to have this layer selected. Make sure that it's not selected here because we don't want to edit the provinces file. So I'm going to paint it just like this. Now it's probably going to be an overkill, but again, I'm just showing you the concepts of how to do it, and obviously you can probably make it look much better than I can. And now I'm going to hide the provinces, and I'm actually going to delete it since I no longer need it. And we're going to export this file just like we did before. Export, replace. In the export dialog, I'm going to choose this format, and we can leave everything else as it is and click export. Excellent, so now let's go into the game and see if our city lights appear. Okay, so here we are in the game, and I've just realized that this whole time I was talking about Cape Town and not Johannesburg. I have no idea why I said Johannesburg, but I had to improvise quite a lot throughout this video to make these things work. So apologies to any South Africans who are watching. Again, sorry about that, but that is not really the point of this video. The point is that we now have our terrain showing correctly as an urban terrain. We have our city graphics showing in here, and we have our city lights working as well. So this is all you need to know about creating cities. I know that this tutorial has been a little bit complicated because of the various tools that we had to use, and it could be difficult to adjust to new tools when you're just using them for the first time. But this is how things sometimes work in modding, and my preference is to always provide you with free tools that you don't have to pay for, since as a starting modder, there's no reason that you need to pay to create very basic mods. This tutorial has no doubt taught me the difference between Cape Town and Johannesburg. Again, I'm sorry about that, but thank you for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully you'll get good results. And if you have issues, please let me know in the comments and I'll try to help you as much as I can. And I'll see you in the next video, tutorial, lesson on the Iron Workshop. Bye bye. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a like. The algorithm and me will be very happy. Here are more videos I make. If you like my stuff, consider subscribing to be notified when new content is available. The Iron Workshop lives and thrives thanks to the continued support of my Patreons. If you're willing and able, you can support me on Patreon for just $1 and get access to exclusive and early content. See you around.